And hello, Grots and Gits. Welcome back to Happy Crumpin' Wargaming. Today, we're coming back and we're going to be talking about part 2 of staging. So if you guys tuned in last week, we did a really in-depth, a fantastic, if I do say so, tutorial on how to actually set your melee pressure armies up for success. Well, today is part 2, where we're going through the other side of the equation. For all you shooting aficionados, you fishy towel cowards out there, we got to figure out how do you defeat the melee pressure, because one of the things that people have really big debates on is some people think that melee is just super underpowered and they don't get to play against shooting. But then what you'll find is a lot of shooting armies, they only ever lose to super high pressure melee armies. So in all reality, the game is actually pretty balanced across this. But if you don't know how to handle the melee pressure, it's going to feel insurmountable. So what we're going to do today is we're going to figure out how the heck to stop them in their tracks. And I'm going to be using the same army to demonstrate because World Eaters is kind of like the quintessential melee pressure army. So I'm going to be showing you exactly how to counter all of those staging that the melee armies want to pull off so that they can take you to the crump bin. So let's just pop right into it. And we're going to quickly just do a very fast overview of what we went over last week, and then we'll hop into the next part. So essentially what staging is it's setting ourselves up for future turns, because in all reality, you don't win the game in turn 1. However, you can easily lose the game in turn 1. So we need to set ourselves up for future turns. And one of the big things that people tend to struggle with is they just don't know what to do in turn 1, and they think they have to cause maximal damage, or they think they have to score maximal points. In all reality, you shouldn't really be thinking about scoring or dealing damage in turn 1 most of the time. Most of the time, turn 1 is just about how do I make sure that I have a successful turns 2 through 5. That's pretty much what turn 1 typically is. Of course, there's always going to be exceptions, so don't worry about it. But we can talk about exceptions in coaching calls if you guys want. Actually, now's a great time to give a quick shout out. If you guys are enjoying this information, you should definitely hit the like button, hit subscribe, and make sure you share it with your friends. You could also join us in the members-only Discord, where we're going over high-level tactics and strategies every single freaking day. We also are getting ready to launch our first teams tournament inside of the Discord. So what's happening is all the members of the Discord who want to participate, you do have to be a paying member. It's $4 a month. You got to pay me a beer for me to organize all this. It is what it is. But what we do is we allow everyone who wants to play. We're going to rank everyone within a certain level of skill level, whether it's through ITC points or if you're an unknown person. People are going to be in brackets. And then we are going to have certain captains select their teammates. So we're using this as an instructional introduction to teams, because most people have no idea how to play teams and never have played teams. Well, the reality is that teams for Warhammer 40k is actually way more fun than individuals. So we're going to have specific, like, very experienced guys. Some of us are WTC players, some of us are just top ranked individual players, and we're going to be captaining individual teams as we're teaching you how to play teams. So if you want to learn how to play teams, you should join the Discord and make sure you get signed up for the teams only tournament. I'll be putting a player pack out pretty darn soon, and all the details will be in there. Anyway, back to the video. Okay, so staging. Melee pressure armies, we know we got World Eaters, Orcs, Blood Angels, blah, 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 and all they want to do is they want to threaten your turn 1 charge. So you as a shooting army, what you have to do is you have to understand that they are putting a ton of pressure on you and that you're going to have to respond to it. You cannot deploy on the line, because if you just deploy on the line and they happen to go first, you're going to lose. So you're going to have to put up certain roadblocks. Now, those roadblocks are pretty darn easy. We have infiltrators, we have scouts, we have transports, we have Overwatch. We have a lot of roadblocks, a lot of tools in our toolbox that we can use in order to upset the melee pressure's plan. So this is what we have to do. We have to, 1, force our enemy out into the open, which, to be fair, our enemy is always going to have to go out to the open at least once in the game. We're going to have to force engagement for scoring. We do not ever want to allow our opponents to play passively, where they just sit behind a wall and they can just score points. So we're going to have to force them into engagement, which means that we need to be scoring well enough that's going to force them to come to us, which is why typically fixed scoring is much better for shooting armies than it is for your, say, melee armies. And melee armies typically, and remember, this is not a hard and fast rule, but melee armies are going to typically be wanting to play tactical so that they can do whatever they're trying to do and score points along the way. All right, so we are going to have roadblocks to stop them from getting to us. So we have infiltrators, we have scouts, we have transports, and we have Overwatch. That's the tools that we're going to use. Now, we need to set up our firing lanes. Our firing lanes are going to be the areas on the map that we get to shoot our opponents from. These are going to be the places where we're going to be corralling them like cats to try to get out into the open so that we get to do the blast. In all reality, sometimes people talk to me about their matchups, and they say, all right, Jonathan, well, the thing is, I just didn't expect my opponent to go where he went. Well, the reality is that when you're playing against a melee pressure army, if you've played enough, you pretty much already know exactly what and where he's going to go. Because honestly, most units have very predefined areas where they can actually move. If you're playing against Wolf Jail from like Space Wolves, for example, where they take nothing but 18 Thunder Wolves, you already know where they're moving because most maps are only going to have 2 to 3 lanes where they can actually move through. So when you see the deployment, you already know where they're moving, so you know how to counter them. One of the ways that we're going to counter our melee opponents is if they do not have scouts and infiltrators, you will always deploy your scouts and infiltrators last. If they do have scouts and infiltrators, you need to deploy your scouts and infiltrators first so that you can block out where he can put down his infiltrators. All right. So the next thing that we have to do is we have to measure our threat ranges. You need to know exactly where your melee opponent can go. Once you've measured the threat range and you know where they can go, you know exactly where you need to be so that they cannot get to you. For example, if they have a maximum threat range of 18 inches, and when I say threat range, what I mean is they move 6 inches and then they can charge 2d6 inches, which would give them an effective threat range of 18. So the maximum they could move is 18 inches. If they move 6 inches and they also have access to advance and charge, what you would say is their maximum threat range would be 24 inches. Okay, now, once you know their maximum threat ranges, you know where you can safely stand. One problem that I see with shooting armies all the time is that they don't think that melee pressure armies will go for the 9-inch or the 10-inch charge. I cannot tell you how many games I've won because my opponent measured and they'd be like, okay, cool, that's going to be a 10-inch charge and you're not going to go for that. And then I go for it and I land it and I win. So trust me when I say that you need to be very cautious about your opponent's threat range so that you can punish them. Now let's go to the TTS map and I'm going to show you how to set up exactly everything that we are discussing right now. And here we are. Okay, so what I did is I left the exact same deployment from the previous video with my World Eaters, and then I also deployed Eldar forces across the map. So this is going to be a Crucible Battle deployment, and this is going to be just a WTC table map. That's pretty balanced. Okay, so what did I do? We already know that we have scouts on these 8-bound, we have scouts on these 8-bound, we have scouts on these Exalted 8-bound, scouts on these Exalted 8-bound, and scouts on Invocatus because of the aura he gives away. Now, the World Eater player has no infiltrators. So what have I done? I took my 3 units of Rangers, which are all infiltrators, and I have deployed them in very strategic areas. The reason why I've deployed them such as this is if you look at this little purple circle here, this is within 9 inches of my model. Actually, I got to back that guy up ever so slightly. So this is 9 inches. My World Eater opponent cannot scout within 9 inches of my models. So if I say go second as the Eldar player, what I've done is I've set myself up in a position that really screws my opponent because now he cannot use his scout moves to get up the table because that would, put him within 9 inches of my models. So he can't scout forward. Can't scout forward here. He cannot scout forward here, and he cannot scout forward here. Well, there's a little bit of room where he's going to get to scout forward on this one flank, but I'm super comfortable with it. And let me explain why. So if he wants to scout forward with this Exalted 8-bound squad and move them all the way up and then go for like a big charge, he's going to have to run into my Rangers. And actually, we can be a little smart about this to make sure we have our Rangers deployed such as this. Because once he does this, he's going to have to charge my Rangers with his 6-man of Exalted 8-bound. And honestly, I do not care if he wants to charge my Rangers with a 6-man of Exalted 8-bound. The second he does that and he kills my Rangers, I just blast him with my Dire Avengers, who are going to be rerolling hit rolls thanks to the Farseer Skyrunner, and then he's going to lose a 6-man of Exalted 8-bound, which is going to be, 300 plus points for my, 70-point unit of Rangers? Like, what do I care? That's a great trade for me. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to force him into scenarios where he has to trade. All right, so that's what happens there if he goes first. The only thing that he's going to do is he's going to be able to kill my Rangers. Now, if he also goes first and say he doesn't get to scout forward, but he just moves his 9 inches here, I'm really happy because now my Rangers get to roll a d6 and they get to move. And let's say they move 3 inches. So now he gets to charge the Exalted 8-bound and kill my Rangers. Once again, I don't care because then I'm going to immediately kill all of his Exalted 8-bound. It's a great trade. I've got a huge 10-man of Shadow Specters right here that are ready to blast. I've got a huge squad of Dire Avengers led by Asterman here that are ready to blast. So I really don't care if he charges these Exalted 8-bound here. Now, what I don't want to see happen is I don't want these Exalted 8-bound to come charge my Dire Avengers. And thankfully, I've set up in such a way that that is going to be practically impossible. Let's move these guys back to 3 inches. Because if he tries to go for that, first off, he's not scouting forward. So he only has his normal 9-inch move. Call it +2 for the World Eaters. And the second he ends his movement there, I just redeploy my Rangers, and I make it more challenging for him to move. And now suddenly, because both of these guys would get to move once you move within 6 inches of them. And now these guys are stuck out in the open. They're going to kill Rangers, sure, but I don't care because then I get to pick them up. See how it works? Now, let's talk about what happens if I, as the Eldar player in this scenario, which I hate saying that because playing Eldar, but what happens if I go first here? All right, so now that it's my turn, and I went first, I get to scout. I probably don't need to scout these guys anywhere at all. And what I need maybe I scout these guys slightly forward here, just to be a little closer. Oh, sorry, that's a little out of coherency. I'll fix that. Sorry, guys. We'll just make sure that coherency is better. All good. All right, so now what we're looking at is it's my movement turn. What I want to do as the Eldar player is I want to make sure that my opponent cannot stage. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to advance these Rangers up. And they're going to advance here. 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 Maybe we'll actually move them a little bit further, kind of like this. Okay. I'm going to, he's obviously going to use his scout moves to make sure that, I can't shoot him turn 1. So we'll just say he moved his scout moves and he did like that. My Dire Avengers, I'm just going to advance them so that they get to touch this here objective. So what they've done is they have set themselves up for a disgusting and very powerful Overwatch. Say I rolled in advance because I know I'm not shooting anything this turn anyway. Okay. So now their Overwatch is very darn scary. These Rangers also get to advance forward. Like it is so. And what I'll do is I'll probably leave this one right about here because I don't necessarily want this unit to easily kill both, but I'm comfortable with him killing both, but I don't want it to be easy. I want him to have to stretch himself thin. So let's say these guys got a little decent bit of an advance. So we move them to be like this, which means that my opponent is kind of screwed for turn 1. Because now, if he comes out to kill these Rangers, I get a good Overwatch. And let's say he just charges through here and he doesn't actually move out. No problem. I get to kill them for free next turn anyway. Same thing, these Shadow Specters also get to move up. They'll move to be probably right about here. So no matter what happens, he won't ever be able to get to them because the second he starts moving like this, he gets Overwatched to shit. Or excuse me, didn't mean to curse. Sorry about that. And that is very, very good. These guys simultaneously do essentially the exact same thing over here. They just kind of come in like this, forcing these 8-bound to waste a turn, killing Rangers. Fuegan gets to move on up, come up here. I don't care if these Exalted 8-bound then come kill Fuegan because Fuegan's going to stand up. At which point in time, I'm going to have Shadow Specters and I'm going to have a bunch of Swooping Hawks ready to come in and kill those 8-bound. These Swooping Hawks are in such a position that they get to move all the way up here, 14 inches. Then they get to start the action of deploy teleport homers and behind enemy lines. And then, of course, what I'm going to do is at the end of my shooting phase, I'll spend my 2 CP that I get for my All-Attack Way Leaper to once again move them a full movement so that they get behind enemy lines and they get deployed teleport homers in my opponent's deployment zone. What this now does is I get to move block the crap out of these Chaos Spawn right here, which means that it's going to be very challenging for him to actually just use the spawn to kill these, and now he's going to actually have to use the Exalted 8-bound to kill the Rangers, which is what I want. So now, as the shooting a player here, I'm not going to kill anything this turn, and I really don't care. I'm actually super freaking thrilled because my opponent is in big trouble here. He really has nothing, nothing that he gets to very comfortably do here. These guys get to come out here. They're going to get Overwatch to crap. I'm going to Overwatch on 4s with full rerolls because I've got my Dire Avengers, which means I'm going to pick up probably 3 or maybe even 4 on the Overwatch. Let's just say I get 3. All right. These guys get to move up here. Then these guys also now get to go ahead and get a redeploy since they moved. Let's say they moved up here. These guys will now redeploy just like this to really mess with them. And then let's say that these guys also redeploy, because they get to roll d6. It's a ranger special ability where they get to move when your opponent moves. Now, my opponent is really boxed in. So what you can see here is he's screwed. The only thing he gets to do is kill rangers this turn, which means I get to pick up a huge amount of his army. These guys get to kill rangers. My rangers don't care. They're all going to die. Totally fine. Angron's going to kill these guys. They don't care. Totally fine. Once again, and then I obviously can put the Incarn wherever I want. But now, these guys are going to have to come out and kill Fuegan, and if they don't, Fuegan's just going to charge them and kill them and shoot them first. So let's say they kill Fuegan. Fuegan comes back to life. And then in my next turn, I get to shoot them all dead. I also get to position like this and set the trap up again. So now, once again, my opponent is going to be move blocked on this unit. Angron is screwed. Let's say these guys all die when the 8-bound kill them. Like I said, I don't care because then they all die. Maybe these guys get to move out. Oh, you know what? Let's just show you this as well. So when you set up your screens, one thing that I really want you to think about is you always want your melee armies or your shooty boys to be 4.1 inches behind your ranger, behind your screen. So if I'm standing like right about here, let's say the Exalted 8-bound come in and they kill all these rangers. And at the same time, these Chaos Spawn also charged. They only have a 3-inch pile-in, which means they will not be able to reach my Osterman. Okay? Although they could charge like this. At this point, he kills them all. This guy gets to consolidate 3 inches. This guy gets to consolidate 3 inches. Cool. One Chaos Spawn is not going to wipe my Dire Avengers. I don't care about that. So you see how like really, really important it is to set up all these screens correctly? Because at this point in time, okay, one Chaos Spawn comes in, kills a couple Dire Avengers. Don't care. Osterman kills him back. And then I'm basically free to wreak havoc again. So I lose my Rangers, but he loses probably 800 points in this turn. And then he just doesn't have the volume that he needs to kill me. These 8-bound are then useless for another turn. Angron is right here. What I really care, if he has one unit that can go and kill me, I've already won the game at this position just because I went first and I advanced to block him in. And I set up all of my firing lanes. Now these Shadow Specters get to hang out wherever they want to hang out. I can have this unit come in, get me to deploy teleport homers, do whatever they need to do. It is a solid plan. So this is what you need to do against those melee pressure matchups. You really, really want to force them to be in a position where they have to expose themselves, where they don't want to. The best thing that you can possibly do to a melee pressure army is move block it and then force them into one place where they just have to pray that they survive a good Overwatch. Like these guys, they're going to pray that they survive a good Overwatch, and they're going to pray that they get to come around, which they just won't. It's a horrible place for the 8-bound to be, and even if they do make it in here and pick up this unit, I have a big 20-man of Shadow Specters here that then just kill them and take the objective. At which point in time, there's nothing left to contest it with, right? So it's like, you set up these little redundancies that forces them to just be screwed no matter what they do. The thing that you really want to look at is these infiltration positions and the scout moves that will help you stop their scout moves and their pressure. Guys, this applies to every single melee pressure army in the entire game and every single shooting army in the entire game. It's all about how you set these things up. I really hope that you watch this video. You might need to watch it 1 or 2 more times just so that you can get a really, really good feel of how to defeat the melee pressure stage. Go watch part 1, watch this part again. Type in the comments if you think that I missed anything, and if you enjoyed this content, definitely hit the like and subscribe button, and I would love to see you in the members-only Discord. It is thanks to my supporters and my members that I actually make these videos. I would not do it at all because YouTube is not very financially rewarding, so you guys supporting me is basically everything that is everything, and I really, really appreciate all of you. So big shout out to all of the supporters and all of my coaching clients and everything. You guys are total rock stars. If you're looking for coaching yourself, you can find access in the links down below using my Ko-fi link, and we'll get you crumping with the best of them. Guys, this is staging. Study it, learn it, love it, smash your opponents. Until next time, happy crumping wargaming. Love you. Bye.